In this hands-on topic, we'll actually stand up an Azure Key Vault Managed HSM. You'll see how to prepare your environment, provision the HSM, and activate it, creating the foundation you'll reuse later for access control, key management, and secure networking. You've already built the groundwork: how HSMs work, why they're trusted, and how keys are created, rotated, and eventually retired. You also compared Azure options and mapped them to different architectures. Now we'll turn that theory into practice by provisioning a managed HSM, setting up the base we'll need before we dive into access control, key operations, and networking. Think of provisioning a managed HSM as a three-layer process. First, you deploy the Azure resource and decide ownership, region, redundancy, and basic networking. Next, you prepare identity and access. Who can manage the HSM, who can use keys, and how those permissions are enforced. Only then do you initialize the security domain and HSM pool. Until that cryptographic activation happens, the service can't perform any real key operations. Before you spin up a managed HSM, treat it like a gated checklist. Confirm your Azure subscription is enabled for managed HSM, including any enterprise or CSP constraints. Choose a region that supports HSM and satisfies your data residency and compliance obligations. Lock in the resource group, naming, and tagging pattern you'll reuse. Then verify you have the right permissions and tools installed and authenticated. Managed HSM planning comes down to 4 connected decisions. Pick a subscription that aligns with who owns security and platform services, so control and auditing are clear. Place HSMs in regions close to the workloads they protect, balancing latency with regulatory requirements. Isolate them in dedicated, well-governed resource groups, and rely on consistent tagging so ownership, environment, data sensitivity, and compliance scope are always obvious. Provisioning a managed HSM always involves 2 permission sets. Control plane permissions, such as contributor or owner at the subscription or resource group, let you create and configure the HSM resource, deployment, networking, diagnostics, and lifecycle. Data plane permissions belong to the HSM itself and govern what can be done with keys, creating them, using them for sign or encrypt, and backing them up. Plan who gets each role and define your initial HSM administrators up front. Think of deployment tooling as a maturity path. You might start with the Azure portal to learn the concepts and try a managed HSM once or twice. As you need consistency, move to Azure CLI so the same script can provision every environment. When governance, approvals, and audits matter, shift to infrastructure as code with Bicep, ARM templates, or Terraform, where changes are reviewed, versioned, and fully repeatable. In the Azure portal, creating a managed HSM is a guided, linear workflow. You begin by choosing the subscription, resource group, region, and instance name. Those choices determine where the HSM lives and how it's built. Next, you define initial administrators using Azure AD identities. These admins control future access, so select secure, well-governed accounts. Finally, let the portal validate your configuration, and only deploy once every check passes. Azure CLI gives you a repeatable way to spin up managed HSMs, which is ideal for automation and DevOps. Authenticate and point the CLI at the correct subscription. Create or reuse a resource group in the region where you want the HSM to live. Then run as Key Vault create with the HSM name, resource group, and location, and supply one or more administrator object IDs to bootstrap secure access. Infrastructure as code lets you define your managed HSM once, then deploy it the same way everywhere. Your template should capture naming, regions, tags, and admin assignments so they're consistent and reviewable. Store those templates in version control, use pull requests for peer review, and run them through a CI/CD pipeline with policy checks and approvals. And keep secrets, security domains, and any sensitive outputs out of source control entirely. Good governance starts before the first secret is created. Give each HSM a meaningful name like HSM Prod US Payments 001, so you instantly know environment, region, workload, and purpose. Tag it from day one with fields such as owner, environment, data classification, compliance scope, and cost center. Place it in the right landing zone and resource group so it inherits the correct policies. Also, document the business owner, technical owner, and recovery contacts, so operations and incident response are never guessing. Think of the security domain as the HSM's master recovery package. It captures the internal state that lets the device understand and unlock all its protected keys. During initialization, that package is split into multiple encrypted shares held by different trusted people or systems. To rebuild or recover the HSM, you must present the required quorum of those shares. If they're lost, recovery may be impossible, so treat them like your most sensitive backup. When a managed HSM is first created, it's not usable until you activate it by initializing the security domain. During initialization, the system generates recovery material, breaks it into encrypted shares, and distributes those to multiple custodians. A quorum rule, such as 3 out of 5 shares required, ensures no single person can recover the HSM. Designing quorum size is a trade-off between stronger security and the practicality of recovery and day-to-day operations. Treat security domain files like crown jewels. Store them only in dedicated, locked-down locations, never in email, tickets, or shared folders. Name specific, trained custodians. Document exactly who does what in a crisis, and rehearse recovery regularly so contacts, tools, and steps stay current and reliable. You've now seen what it takes to provision a managed HSM. Planning the right subscription, region, resource group, permissions, and tooling. Choosing a deployment method that fits your governance, and activating the security domain with quorum for resilience. Next, we'll focus on locking down access, managing keys, and securing connectivity.